Got any whales?
I can make whale noise and whale song if you like. Welcome, bienvenue. Welcome to this week's Gareth and David Talk Modern Sales. We've got David Chernick and myself, Gareth Wax of the Many Purple Hats. Today's episode, I guess, sponsored by David Attenborough. What is a whale in sales? David, what is a whale in sales?
It's a big one. It's a big one. It's a big one. It's a company-changing deal. It's one that takes you onto a higher level.
Yes.
One that makes a radical improvement, or enters you into a new market, gives you a new footprint in a new territory.
Okay. Well, can it be one that says, "I don't want one of those. I want 1,000 of those"?
Yeah, it could be that. It could be that. So that's the answer. It's great that everybody joined us. Thank you.
I've only ever had, I think, 3 proper whales in my sales career. We've all had loads of minnows. I've had quite a few of the sturgeons, but only once or twice have I had the full.
Whales don't come along every day. That's the thing. That's the point. That is the point. And I raised it because it's come up twice this week. Once with a client, where we are actively pursuing whales, making sure that we have, some whales in the pipeline at any one time. And I also saw somebody else who's a mate, actually a supplier. And when I was asking about whales, they very enthusiastically told me that that they do 6 to 8 whales a year.
So
it's not a whale, right? That's not a whale.
No, a whale is like once, maybe a year.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, firstly, we've got to understand what a whale is. That's why I posed the question, what is a whale, rather than how did you get one? Because, the content for this, I think, really is going to be how to get one. But we've got to understand what we're aiming for. You're not going to, achieve what you're aiming for unless you know what that goal is.
So if your average bill is 100K per order, you're talking one which is the early millions.
Early millions. I mean, it depends on what you're selling, the scale of your business. I mean, I've got a client who considers a whale to be a $5 million deal, and
I think it's all defined by what is your
normal. And they're doing at the moment 40 to 50 million a year.
Right. So it depends what their normal run rate sale is.
Yeah, so it can depend on what your normal run rate is. It can also depend on what your objective for that whale is. So, for example, I gave a couple of examples before, one of which is to get a footprint in a new market. And so, but it has to be something big. I mean, a whale is a big thing. It's a big beast, and it's going to be stretching. So, a whale is something that is within your capability of delivering as well.
Right.
But it will stretch you. So it's a realistic thing. It's something that does exist. Okay. And is in the realms of possibility of you winning. And it's particularly relevant if you are a challenger brand. Okay. And a challenger brand is when you are not the leading brand in your market. Yeah. You are a relative minnow compared to the people that you're competing with, right? And what might be bread and butter, an everyday sale for those enormous competitors of yours, you actually would be a potential game changer. Okay, well, yeah. So a lot of people enjoy growth that's incremental, But if you want to take a step up, and if you want to do that organically, then the idea is that you are going to go out of your way and have a strategy behind winning a business changing deal. So, you can define it yourself, your own business, and some of the factors that will influence that will be what is the current nature of your business. What are the typical sizes of your business? Are you selling a number of different products? In which case, your example there, if you're used to selling one product at a time, how do you find a client that's going to buy 1,000? If you are used to selling $100,000 deals, how do you get up to $500,000 or more than $1 million?
Right.
If you have a market that is satisfying the needs of your locale, so I'm in Northwest London. Yeah, but if I wanted to reach people in, I don't know, the Northwest, where I have some connections, Northwest of England, then, a whale could be a significant client. That means that I then have reason to regularly go up to Liverpool and Manchester in order to look after them and grow a market there as well. Okay, but typically we're looking at something that is by itself big. It doesn't, by the way, need to be enormously profitable, because the gain to your business might be something beyond growing your profit. It might be, as I say, this footprint. It might be taking you into an area where you do not have a reputation, that area being something that goes beyond the brief that you are usually delivering. Yeah, so I provide sales coaching and consultancy. If I wanted to get into, I don't know, marketing, I don't, but if I did, and I had some capability there, and I thought that that'd be an area I could expand into, then it would be a client where they're going to, do a lot of work with me on marketing.
Right.
All right. But typically it's going to be something quite big. Now, if you're a 100 grand business, right? So your revenue is 100 grand, then a whale might be something that is 50 grand. If you're a $50 million business, then a whale might be 5 million. So the percentage is going to be less, but you would know what that is. And I would recommend that you define what it is for yourself, write it down, and then build it into a strategy as to how to get them.
Yeah, look, I think it's also, I mean, I'll give you an example. I remember when I was working with a very small company, and I somehow fell into the opportunity of potentially supplying part of BAC, who are then going to sell on that product with their wraparound onto the MOD, and that was like
BAT, British American Tobacco.
No, BAC.
Oh, BAC.
Yes. So they were going to take our Cisco stuff with some unique stuff that we created around it.
Yeah.
And then put their own wraparound onto it, and then sell that into the MOD. So they were taking care of all the MOD nastiness, but we would still have to create a whole new infrastructure within us just to be able to supply what is effectively a public sector tender. Now, there would have been a huge step up for us. We didn't win it, but we were very close. And it was you when you're going for something like that, there's often like months of preparation work before you can get there, and often, dare I say it, upfront expenditure just in presentation costs.
For sure.
I mean, it's a lot cheaper now with Canva and things like that, but back then there was no such stuff. You needed experts to be able to create that level of.
That's just on the presentation. I mean, big deals often take considerably more resource. And funnily enough, again, it was somebody different, but also in the last week, talking to somebody about the cost of sale and being realistic about how much you're prepared to invest in winning a big deal. If you're used to selling, £1,000 products, then, how much are you prepared to invest in selling that one product? Maybe you would have a conversation on the phone with somebody, I don't know. But if you are going to be selling something that's 100 grand, 500 grand, $1 million, 5 million, then, what are you prepared to invest in order to get it? What investment of time, resources, money? I sometimes hire copywriters to help write tender documents for big deals. It can be worth it. I would encourage clients, or I've worked with clients that spent 60, 80 grand on trying to win multi-million-pound deals. There was a famous case in one of my previous employers where we were going for a enormous monster of a deal, ten or hundreds of millions of dollars. And by the time they qualified out and realized that they just weren't going to win it, or even if they did win it, it would be quite a costly and risky affair. They'd already spent multiple millions of pounds on it, a team of people working on it. I remember an opportunity landing in my lap back in the days when I was an employee, and it was to provide some outsourcing services to just the most enormous. It was a consortium effort, so we were going to be part of a joint bid with other players. And it looked very, very exciting for us. There's a huge amount of excitement amongst our management team, our leadership team, to go and get it. But the more I looked at this and realized how much work was going to be involved, how much of a distraction it would be to the rest of the business, how much resource would be required, and then balance that against the probability of us winning it, just didn't add up. And so, I had to go back to our chief executive and, present the case for withdrawing, which wasn't an easy thing to do.
No, were you part of the team that presented it in the first place?
No, it came into our leadership team. We were invited to bid by somebody very senior in the buyer and by somebody who was leading the consortium. The sort of the lead contractor.
Yes, I know of the kind of.
So like the chief executive said, right, who's going to deal with this? You can deal with this. Let's go and win that.
Yeah, but the trouble is, I think sometimes that they misunderstand, perhaps at that level, that perhaps their beautiful company isn't quite yet set, ready to go for that.
Well, I mean, in this particular situation, the right decision for us was to withdraw, right? They would not have wanted to go into it once they knew all of the information. Of course, we all get very excited when somebody asks us, do we have the capability to do certain things? Oh my gosh, I'd love to do that. It'd be amazing. Yeah. And I think I could do that. I have the skills to do that. But, there could be a number of different factors. We still got to qualify. Right. Just because we're excited about the scale of a deal, it doesn't mean we should go for it. We've got to qualify it. But, sometimes we do qualify those in. What I'm saying here is that if you want to take some organic leaps in your business, then, you're really going to have to, and you're selling a business service, then you can grow organically by radically improving your volume. Right. But if you start up in the game and start selling things that are individually as deals more than what you're used to, then that's a very cool strategy to be able to deliver against. Because actually, the process involved in selling 1,000 versus 10, might be very, very similar. The problems that you're solving by providing those solutions are likely to be similar or the same. So I've told people here before that I've got a side hustle, which is my events business, private business, private parties. We DJ and do catering, venues, dressing rooms, and all that kind of stuff.
Provide
music, party. I mean, when I started out, I was charging 250 quid to DJ someone's bar mitzvah 35 years ago. But, these days, I might take on a 50 grand party, right? But, so that for me could have been a whale.
Quite right.
And it's within my ability to deliver.
But the thing is, there's been a progression over all that time, and sometimes a business needs to almost take a leap of faith to jump the
Correct.
rungs of that ladder.
Correct. I mean, I remember the first time when I did catering, and you know, I don't necessarily push that part. It's not the most profitable thing to do, but you know, I like to do in some situations of catering because I like to theme things. So, you know, in order to be able to get the scale of projects where people would be happy to invest the money, it would give me creative freedom, then, you know, I needed to increase the scale of the deal I was doing and providing more services.
Right.
Yeah. So, you know, sort of a broader range of services to do that.
Right.
And, you know, yeah, I could win it, but I had to be able to deliver it as well. But
Right.
I'm only going to win it if I go for it. Okay. And in order to do that strategically, I need to start off, as we do with any campaign, with a list of targets. Yeah. Or with at least a client persona of whom I'm aiming for. And I need to do some sort of outreach or marketing, you could call it, to get them in there. You know, my friend who does 6 to 8 whales a year, you know, he won't have 6 to 8 opportunities in his pipeline. He'll probably have 12 or 20 deals in his pipeline, of which he'll win 6 to 8. Now, you know, thinking a bit more realistically, for most businesses, when they're winning a whale, they might win one a year. Okay, right. Now to get that one a year, we want to probably have, we've talked about ratios before, we probably want to have about 3 in our pipeline at any one time. So how are we going to get those 3? We need to be targeting people, probably starting off with a list of 10.
Also, the sales.
I don't want to divert all my resources to purely marketing towards those 10.
I was just going to talk about sales cycle. The sales cycle for the length of a sales cycle for a whale is often a lot longer than it would be for. Yeah, so that's one of the many reasons why you need at least to have those 3 in your sights, perhaps even 6 months, a year in advance, because it will take a while to build that level of confidence with them that you may be the small mouse that roared, but
that's right.
You have the capability of doing what they need you to do.
Now, you and I entered the workforce at a time when in IT, there was that phrase, nobody ever got fired for buying IBM, right?
Or BT. Those are the 2.
Or BT,
Nobody got fired for buying from BT. Nobody got fired from buying from IBM.
That's right.
Yeah.
But, you know, in the meantime, since then, people have been fired for buying IBM. That's not that IBM is a bad company, but there are alternatives out there. And if you are a challenger brand, you know, you don't want to be scared of pitching against IBM, because there'll be some people who'll be looking for something a little bit different. You might have some advantages over, you know, your biggest competitors. And those advantages might be in terms of agility or new technologies or your personality, you know, being a much better fit, your brand being a better fit with the client, especially if that client themselves is a challenger brand. You'll have some shared lived experiences, and that can give you an advantage. It can give you an advantage. And it can give the buyer an advantage as well, because they might end up with a better supplier that caters to their needs better. This happens a lot in professional services. You know, if you're a business that's grown to a size where you think, right, we need an auditor that's got a proper name behind it, you know, then you could go to, of course, the Big 4. But who's going to be looking after you at the Big 4? Is it going to be one of their lead partners? Well, maybe not. And if you're a sort of business that needs a bit more support from somebody that is going to really be on the case with some excellent experiences, then you probably want to be going to a smaller accountancy firm to do your audit, because you might get better attention from senior partners there. You'll be a more important client.
There'll be less of them, and they'll have less clients, so they're far more likely to be able to give the attention you deserve. On that note, I'm just going to wrap up and say, once again, I think we've shown a light on something that perhaps people don't really consider that much, about what the effort and the time and the energy that needs to be involved in not just landing well, but maintaining that position, because it can particularly shift you as a company onto a new platform, a new layer, as it were. I want to thank David Chernick for once again helping shine a light on a weird subject that is part of sales that people don't necessarily
Get them in the pipeline. Get some in the pipeline. Get those whales.
That's it. Get the.
I'll help you win it. I'll help you win it.
Oh, there you
I'll
go.
help you win it.
Look at that. Look at that. Can't say fairer than that. And until next week, hopefully at the normal time, we'll see you again. Until then, it's goodbye from him, and it's probably goodbye from me. And keep your feet on the ground. Keep reaching for the stars and look after that mental health. Bye-bye now.
Ciao, ciao.